Welcome everyone to my channel, Beth Bell Live. I'm so happy to have you here. I have a live studio audience, and that's always exciting because we get right to the heart of the matter, answering questions from my higher self and their higher self, your higher self, and really bringing in some insights to help us work through things that cause heartache and sometimes deep heartbreak. So we want to move through that and get to bliss. Before we do, I'd love to know, what is your state of the heart? In the comments, whether you're watching us live or on replay, give us a heart. Is it a blue heart? Is it a red hot heart? Is it a pink heart? What is it, a brown heart? And what does that mean to you? I would love to know. Now, if you've pre-submitted a question, we will definitely get to those. But if you're with me live, I would love for you to ask questions in the comments. We will put you in queue and priority if you're watching with us live. But if you're watching on replay, that's fine too, because you can enter them in the comments, or you can go to bethbell.me/question. And I will be sure to put them in queue for next week. So I thought I'd start out again this week just talking about something that has really catapulted my heart. And it's just, it's one of those like life stories. I was actually in a Uber, and a gentleman driving just started to share a few sentiments. And so I just said, oh, tell me more. And, actually it was, tell me what happened to your wife? Because it was obvious that there was something that had gone on. And I said, if you feel comfortable sharing. And he went on and shared a little bit about what had happened to him in his life. And he just felt really heard and seen and inspired. And I just love that because it warmed his heart unexpectedly, and it warmed my heart unexpectedly, just having that little point of connection. And it was simply because we saw each other, and I heard what he had to say, and he felt that I heard what he had endured in his life. And then he said, "Thanks for listening to my story." And it was just like, yeah. So, it's always about the stories, isn't it? And it's the stories of the mind that we're always trying to break through, because sometimes they hold us back and sometimes they catapult us forward. But the ones that hold us back are the ones that we just really want to dismantle. So on the show, that's what we do, is we get right in there on relationships to love and to life, and anything that's weighing heavy on your heart today. Please feel free to jump in, ask a question live, do it on replay. I love to hear your questions. And oftentimes your question is something that so many other people are struggling with as well. So it's always something for the collective. All right, before we get started with our live studio audience or anyone on live here with us on YouTube, I'm going to throw out a few of the questions that came in pre-submitted to get us started. All right, so question number 1. I'm uncomfortable with this human experience. Someone suggested healing my ancestral lineage to release whatever is causing this undertow of unhappiness. However, I feel like my issues aren't from here, and that I'm simply longing to be reconnected to my starseed existence. What do you think? I think, first of all, it's fabulous and wonderful that you're acknowledging your starseed lineage and your connection to your starseed family. If you're not familiar, for the other viewers, what that means is that we often have come from different planetary sources. You can call them aliens. There's lots of different names that people have for them. I do also like the word starseed because it really just kind of gives us an idea of where we're from, if you're Palladian or reptilian or all the grays. And so not to get too much into that, because this question is about someone who knows their starseed lineage and they're wondering, like, hey, is my ancestral lineage something I really need to jump into when I feel like it's just like a longing for home? And what I would say to that is, irregardless of where you're coming from in your starseed lineage, you chose to be human right here, right now on planet Earth. And when we're human, we are bound to our ancestral lineage. And so we do need to step in and heal that. Now, I'm not sure if it's for you or for the collective, but sometimes we use our starseed lineage as an escape mechanism. Now, hear me out. An escape mechanism in the sense that we don't want to be present. We don't want to actually be here. We're like, why did I come here? I've struggled with that a lot in my life as well. Like, why? Like, I must have hit the button and just said, no, stop. I don't want to go down to that place again. But we do, and we did at some point, and we came here with a soul contract. And those soul contracts are with all of the people that are in our lives, right? It's people that we get born into, our parents. It's the people that we choose in our life. It's the people that we fall madly, deeply in love with and then hate terribly. It's all of these people that we have these contracts with to help us experience being human. So I would say, yeah, absolutely. Get into your ancestral lineage, because to be here as a human, you have, as you know, DNA, and you have genetics, and you have that energy line that comes with your genetics. So yes, can there be a situation where it's an absolute walk-in and you've been completely hijacked? Yeah, that's a possibility. But I'm not getting the feeling that that's the case here. I'm getting the feeling that there is a lot of ancestral lineage, and that there's something really deeply within you that you're looking to heal and that you want to get to in your humanness. Because sometimes it's easy and more fun, quite frankly, to be out there in the cosmos, associating with our starseed origins, which I also love to do and I very much encourage. It's just that we did come here for that human experience. So you want to stay anchored in the physical body and into what are those life experiences that I called in for my growth and my ascension and my awakening process. And that's where the juice really is. And I know sometimes it's not fun as we're going through the deep details and the trauma and the heartache and the heartbreak of the things that happened to us when we were little, or in previous lives, or, wherever it's come from, or the previous lives of our, or the ancestral lineage lives of our parents, our grandparents, right? So there's a lot of dynamics happening all at once. So I would highly encourage you to consider doing some ancestral work. And there's great family constellation work. We just did that actually yesterday in my living room here. And there was some really profound things that came through for everyone. So all right, if that's helpful or not, please give me some comments if you want more information, more insights, or if you want to do a one-on-one session. I would love to help you out more with that and really just bring you back into planet Earth and enjoy the bliss and the love that exists here. All right, with that, are we still rolling live? Do we have any live questions, or should I continue on the, okay. Okay, so the next question, one moment. My boyfriend and I have been dating around 6 months. We seem to weave in and out of a deeply connected relationship. At times, he's all in and talks about moving in together. And then the next day, he doesn't communicate with me and leaves me wondering if there is something more going on. How can we get on the same page regarding our commitment and communication level? Is there something I can do, or does it just need time? What's coming to me on this one is that you really have to feel into what's right for you. I'm going to make a wide sweeping statement. I don't mean it to be offensive to any of the sexes, but men oftentimes are a little bit slower in the waking up process or associating with their feelings, not always, but they have a little bit more of a challenge to really articulate their feelings, to communicate. And so it could be a matter of time. But what I'm getting is that it's more about feeling into your heart. Like, how does this relationship make me feel when I'm in it? Is it a roller coaster? Is it like you said it's like in, out, in, out. And that's not really a safe, grounded place to be. And it doesn't typically allow for real deep spiritual growth. Although deep spiritual growth does happen through very tumultuous times. But I don't think we have to keep riding the roller coaster if we are recognizing, hey, somebody's not showing up with me in the same way that I'm showing up with them. And that's where sometimes those tough decisions have to be made of, do I really want to continue with the turmoil. That's the word that's coming to me. You didn't say that, but I'm getting that feeling of like just this turmoil of just like in, out, in, out. So I would really sit with this one, and I would sit with, can you love this person exactly where they're at? If they're not exactly in the place of right communication or saying the words that you need to hear, or, is it their shit or is it mine? Like, is it me that needs to communicate more? Maybe I'm not communicating, is some of the questions you can ask yourself. And if you feel like you really are, then yeah, it's asking those tougher questions of, is this something that I want to wait for? Now, I don't mean like wait for maybe in the truest sense of the term, but I mean like, am I expanding in this relationship? Because I get the feeling that you actually want to dive deep into love. You want to share your love and you want to receive someone else's love. And if that dynamic isn't happening and you're feeling like your love is somehow being seen as conditional, or their love is being seen as conditional, then that's where I really start to go, yeah, I think there's something to maybe step away from here. And sometimes the best thing we can do and the most loving thing we can do is to actually step away from relationships when they're not serving our highest good. I get this analogy a lot, but it's a basic analogy of, if you're on a plane, you got to put your own oxygen mask on first. And it's not from like this really super selfish place, but it's from a sacredly selfish place. It's from I want to be in my soul and I want to love with my soul and I want to be with someone else that can show up in that same way. So I would just dig a little bit deeper into you and see. I think your question was, is there something I can do or does it just need time? I think what you can do is be you and know what you need and make sure you're communicating, this is what I need, when you feel you need it, not like 2 days later, not after you've talked to 10 of your girlfriends and the story's gotten big and there's all this, energy behind it. And then sometimes we create all these other little details around it that are feelings that we have, but they got bigger and went from a little anthill to a mountain. And so I think we have to just be really present with ourselves. I'm not saying you can't clear with friends. I'm just saying, watch yourself. Because if you're not saying to your partner what you find yourself saying to your friends, then that's you. Then that's you not being able to communicate what it is you need. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. If not, and you're on with us live, please write in the comments and I'm happy to elaborate. Or as always, you can schedule a one-on-one. We can go deeper into that. But I think you're on it. You're really tuning in and you're getting the nuances and you're saying, yeah, maybe I don't want to ride this roller coaster. So I'm with you on that. Okay, we're going to keep moving along here. Do we have any other live questions or anyone in the studio audience ready to jump up and ask any questions? Okay, we'll keep going on then. I think we've got some that are starting to move around here. All right, here's another question. I'm having issues with my boyfriend going to a wedding with his ex-wife, partly because I wasn't invited, although I understand the dynamics and was okay with it. What really got me was that he didn't communicate well with me afterwards. I thought he'd want me to come over, but instead I received a text messages that were vague. Do you think I'm overreacting? Feeling into the energy, I think that there's like a legitimate concern here, because otherwise you wouldn't be asking the question. It's heavy on your heart. You're feeling something as a result of this. Again, I feel like this question is very related to the last question, which is you have to communicate with that individual, with that partner, what it is that's going on for you inside. And sometimes that also requires us to just sort of sort ourselves. And what I mean by that is, and again, some of these are wide sweeping statements about women and men, but women often have a tendency to be very emotional and have lots of shades of gray and have lots of emotion about little snippets of things that happen. Whereas men oftentimes are like, yeah, that was like a passing moment. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what are you upset about? And I don't think that it always comes from this place of like not wanting to understand their partner. I think it comes from a place of just not having built that muscle, not having built that emotional muscle to like know how to communicate. And men often speak to women like they do to men. And men communicate really well. It's like black and white, everything's like really clear, and like it can come in one word, like cool. And like the other man's like, yeah, I get it. I know exactly what you're saying. And like a woman's like, what do you mean cool? Like, what does that mean? Like, is it like we're on or we're off, or, like, what does it mean? So I think sometimes we have to recognize that this communication gap that we have is just something we have to continue to clarify. What does this mean, right? And where I guess where I was headed with this is it feels like there's maybe a journaling component to it where you center yourself before going into the communication with the man. How can you get yourself just a little bit more black and white? You're still honoring all the nuances of your feelings, but you just go in and you say, okay, I'm going to get just black and white on what is it I'm feeling, because we have to feel into that. It doesn't always come. We don't always know immediately, like, oh yeah, this is why I'm feeling this way, because it's probably something from a week ago or a month ago or 10 times ago that's activating that emotion within you. You're like, yeah, I know this isn't a big deal, but I'm feeling like there's something in there and I want to address that. And then we oftentimes, just as humans, don't want to go to that emotional squishy spot because we don't want to cry. We don't want to, we don't want to be upset. We don't want to make a big deal out of it. And that's where I say talk as early as you can when these emotions come up. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, honey, I don't feel good about our communication yesterday. I don't know what it is exactly, but can you just sit with me and be with me and hear me out so I can work through it and feel like we're working through this together, as opposed to just going off and trying to go through the madness in my mind. And hopefully you're with a partner that says, yeah. And then they start to realize, men are so solution oriented. And as soon as you give them the green light that they don't have to provide a solution, it's not that you don't want their solutions, but it's just like, honey, you don't have to have an answer for me. Just hear me out. I think you'll see that the dynamic changes dramatically, because men typically don't like to hurt women. They typically don't like to not get what women are saying. But oftentimes they really have no clue where all of the layers are coming from. And they get exhausted with us really fast, again, generally speaking. So we also have to go back to that centeredness of like, okay, let me get to my feelings. Let me articulate. Is it mine? Is it theirs? And I think you're going to find that, yeah, all of your feelings are valid. I want to say that first. And that you'll get yourself clear and then say, hey, here's how I'm feeling about this. And can we next time do this? One last thing that's coming through. I think this is so important because it's always easy in relationships, no matter who it is, that when someone does something that hurts us or we feel is wrong or isn't in alignment, it is so easy to go in there and say, when you do this, it makes me feel, and that's okay to say. But what I would offer is that you switch your lens ever so slightly to find everything that your partner's doing right. Just really practice this. Like every day, come up with, gosh, the way they made my coffee, it's so perfect. The way they got out of bed, like it's so perfect. The way they made the bed, it's so perfect. And just start really finding all the perfection and all the things that you love. Like if this is also helpful, go back to when you fell in love, like way back when, right? When you were in that madness of like, they can do no wrong. And you were in that complete infatuation stage. Go back there and start cultivating what that feels like when you just love someone just for all of their flaws, like for all of their silliness, for all of their, right, all of those things, and feel into that energy and start finding that energy. That is what is going to shift. Continuing to talk about all the things that make us feel bad will not help you shift the greater energy ball between the two of you. It'll only make it smaller. So we've got to find the good things. We've got, because we want them to find that in us too. We want to hear that from them. What is it that I'm doing that makes you happy? And I think sometimes we just lose sight of it. It's natural. It's just life. It's stress. It's jobs and work and kids and all the stuff that happens. So we just want to come back to that really intentional place of just feeling into the love that we actually have or had for a partner that we want to get back to. And yeah, hopefully that's helpful. If not, give me a little note in the comments. And I think we'll keep moving along here into the next set of questions. Anyone in the live studio audience ready to jump up and ask? They're thinking about it. I'm going to take a sip of water in the meantime.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Here's my question. It's a little bit long. I'm going to give you some context first. I've recently discovered similar dynamics in how I interact with work and in romantic relationships. I'm different with friendships. I suspect it has to do with self-worth and the ability to receive, or is it self-sabotage, or some other reason? How can I get to the bottom of it? Is it not going for what I actually want? That's another possibility. And if so, how do I get to what I really want in my highest, best good, and therefore the collective?
I love that question. What's coming to me first to say is a lot of this is about masculine, feminine energy within you. And so the receiving part of you, that feminine part of you, it feels like there's the word hooks comes to mind. Let's just talk this out and see what comes through. It's like there's something holding you back from receiving at your fullest potential. And that is creating a different dynamic. Now, what I'm feeling into is that when you're with your friends, you have a safety net of some sort that makes you feel more comfortable. Maybe there's relationships with friends that you've had that have been so positive and so trustworthy that your reliance on humans are more in that friendship circle. Whereas maybe your relationship with masculine energy coming in the form of a man might be a little bit different. But what's coming back around is just really getting into that feminine, masculine energy within you. Even though you're a woman, doesn't mean that any of us are actually truly in our feminine just because we have female anatomy. In fact, I think a lot of generations have been kind of suffering this other swing where the women are carrying more masculine energy and they're not doing the balance, and in some ways some of the men are starting to move more into their feminine because the women, and I'm not saying this is exactly you, it could be more for the collective, but where women are actually forcing men, and that's not the right word, and that's, I know, not for you specifically, like the forcing part is not for you, but where we're really pushing men into this place where they're not able to like truly be in their masculine. So what's coming is, in the olden days, and I'm not saying that this is like right or wrong, but in the olden days, men were very clear about their role. Their role is that they open a door for a woman. Their role was that they open the car door for a woman. Their role was that they go out, make money, and come home. So the roles were really clear. And so I think what's happened now over the last 20, 30 years is that we've started to see this confusion between men and women. I mean, men today don't know, like, if I open the door for a woman, is that like, am I being sexist? Am I right? So all of these things are going through the narrative. And I think men are struggling even more so than women with like, what is right? So to come back to you specifically, it feels like there is this jostling with yourself internally about how do I really be in my feminine and receive, and who do I trust to receive from? And that, the connection between work and romance, it just feels like there's it feels like those are more difficult because they mean the most to you. It feels like there's relationships at work that are really, that feel important to you, and the relationships at home feel really important to you. And that sometimes creates, more, the word anxiety comes, I'm not sure if that's specific to you or not, but there's an anxiety that comes with this idea of wanting to get it right. And I think when we're talking about how we feel, and we're talking about receiving, and we're talking about giving, that there's no right. And that's where we're wanting to dismantle some of these thought constructs about what society tells us is right. And it's also like in our minds, like we think, oh, this is the right way to do something, or this is the right way to say something, or this is the right way. And what I'd like to offer is that we take away that word right, because I think what it's really about is being in our hearts and not so much in our minds. And our minds are the ones that tell us all these thought constructs about how things are supposed to be. And when we're in the moment and we can just speak our truth, which is what feels like is the ultimate point for you, is like, in that moment, I'm feeling this. In this moment, I'd like to receive this. In this moment, oh, wow, I just realized that I actually wanted to receive that from a colleague or from a lover, but I didn't. I didn't allow myself, right? That's like just tuning into yourself, just the nuances of the mind narrative that you start to hear yourself say. And like, you want to receive, but then you don't. Why not? Oh, geez. And don't overdo it, because otherwise then you just get in the self-judgment place. And I'm not suggesting that at all. You don't want to be judgmental of yourself. You want to be soft with yourself. Come home and say, oh gosh, I realized that maybe if I would have just allowed that person to do that thing, I could have received. And also remember that when people give, a lot of people are giving deeply from their heart. And when we don't receive, we're actually not allowing them to have this beautiful experience either. So I think it goes back to that masculine feminine balance of giving and receiving. And I feel like your heart is so pure in so many ways, and just like, so like, you want to give this unconditional love, but there's like this little like flip switch that goes off in your brain that says, I don't know, oh wait, like, let's just protect this, let's just see. And then that hesitation kind of stops maybe some momentum from happening that allows you to be in that like really blissful flow state, right? And it's always, just remember, it's just the mind. The mind is coming in, trying to tell us something, trying to give us, an idea of what's right or wrong, when everything is divine in the true sense in every moment of now. It's just allowing ourselves to experience it and really being in it. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Is there something more I could help with?
No, that touches on a lot of points. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Let's go on to the next question, or if we have other questions in the studio audience or on live. All right. So let's see. Next question. I am struggling between teaching someone how to love me versus the gaps in communication being a red flag. Some texts from a new guy I'm dating online are short and feel a bit curt. Do I say, ouch, that hurt, or that was a little cold? Is that what you intended? It's easier to walk away, but I do feel that dating pools of evolved men is small to begin with. It's so interesting. I always find it interesting. Each show has a theme to it, and I'm just recognizing this theme of communication is coming through. But specific to this question, what I'm also getting is that we rely way too much on texting, on like ways of communicating that doesn't involve speech and eye contact and really feeling the energy between two people. And I think that what social media is teaching us and what texting is teaching us is how to disconnect, from our own feelings, how to disconnect from other people. And I believe I've witnessed that young people today are having a harder time having face-to-face discussions, having conflict resolution, because they're not having to even write full sentences. They're not having to articulate a thought. And so that's the first thing that comes to mind, is just stop texting. Just pick up the phone and call people. It's like, it's one thing I love to do, and it always surprises people. And I'm like, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I'm just calling you. Like, I didn't text and say, can you talk? I mean, I still do that sometimes too, but Isn't it fun to just like catch someone and just be like, they can say yes and no, right? If they don't have time, they don't answer. So pick up the phone more. That's going to help you a lot because, as we know, tonality doesn't come through in text. Oftentimes when it comes through, it's wrong anyway, because you're reading it through your lens and they're sending it through their lens, and it's like night and day maybe. So pick up the phone and call. But the other thing that I'm getting on this one is, you said, I am struggling between teaching, and you have that in quotes, teaching someone how to love me versus the gaps in communication being a red flag. Um, I know that this came from a woman, so I'm going to say that whether you're a man or a woman, not very many people actually like to be taught something, especially in a romantic relationship. Unless you've signed up for a course and you're sitting in front of a professor, you don't like to be taught. So I think in the true feminine, we guide, we show, we communicate. This is what I really like. Oh, when you said this to me, or when you did that, that was so helpful for me because it made me feel this way. So that's guiding. If you feel like you're teaching, you're in your masculine, and there's going to be a rub because it's not soft. It's not, I know what your intention is, and it's a good intent. I know your intention is a good intention, but we're not here to teach people anything. We're here to awaken ourselves, heal ourselves, love ourselves, and attract people that can help us with any lessons that we've called in for our growth, so that we can share love with them. Even if it's somebody at Starbucks you don't know, that we get to this place. I know it's a tall task because there's so many programs and so many things in there, but we want to be that beacon of light for others. And the only way to do it is through yourself. So we're not here to teach anybody anything. We're here to guide. We're here to shine the light, show the way. And so I would just, communicate. I mean, first of all, the dating online, like, I get it. It's hard sometimes to find people that are right there in your community, but I would ask yourself, what do I need to do? Is this person in a place? Are we in a place that we can come together, be in the same town, city, state? I don't know what your distance is here, and have that face to face. If you can't do that, then I would suggest that you put some, I don't mean hard parameters. I just mean like that you say, okay, I love that we're getting to know each other. What's going to be really helpful is that we have FaceTime conversations, Zoom conversations, that we have face-to-face conversations, and put that as a priority. Like, it doesn't mean you can't text, but as we're getting to know each other, I just really want to get to know you. I want to see the sparkle in your eyes. I want to see the frown on your face. I want to feel like whatever emotion you're exuding. And I think that person's going to be like, wow, you really want to see me? And if they don't want you to see them, that's your red flag. If they don't want to actually show up, why I don't have good lighting, or well, big deal. Like, we're not here for lighting and backgrounds. We're here for that connection. We're here to hear the nuances in our voice and the tonality, the stuff that you'll never get on a text. So I would stay committed to that. If you have to do the online dating, I'm assuming that you have distance, that you're not able to show up. If you're able to show up, then show up. Like, do as many in-person dates as you can. It's the most important thing you'll ever do, is be in someone's presence, because then you'll get the full essence of who they are. And you can't replace that in any way. Even on Zoom, there's obviously limitations, right? There's limitations to how you can connect with someone's soul, when you're looking through a camera. And so do everything you can to be in that close communication. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. If not, please write in the comments, or if you're a listener and you have a follow-up question to it, just write it in there. Like, hey, you jolted something in me. I want to know this. And so please write in the comments. I'm happy to elaborate more. And if we don't get to it on this show, we'll get to it the next one. Okay. Any other live studio audience questions? Are we ready to dive more into? You can go twice.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So it's just a general question. I often wake up with a lot of anxiety in the morning, and I was wondering if you could just speak into that state of unease.
Yeah. Yeah, what's coming to me is like some very practical things, which you probably already do, but taking a magnesium and things at night that just can kind of help calm your nervous system. But it feels like the bigger thing that's coming up is I know a lot of us look at anxiety as bad, and I know that it feels bad. So I'm not discounting anxiety in any way, shape, or form. But what I feel anxiety for you is like this check engine light. And I think you know that. And that's why it creates more anxiety. You're like, what am I supposed to do about this? And for anyone who's suffering from anxiety. But it's your body trying to release and let go of something. So it's trauma. It's something that's stored at a cellular level, and it's impacting your nervous system. It's actually in there deeply, and sometimes it's hard to get to. So I think the first step is what you've already done, which is just 100% acknowledging, right? Anyone who's experiencing this, like, I'm feeling this, but then it's also coming to a grounded state. And again, you asked for this sort of for the collective, and I'm answering it more for the collective too, that we do those grounding activities that are so simple, and it's called breath. Because when we have anxiety, it creates that fight or flight response, and then we're not breathing. And then we go, oh shit, I'm having anxiety. Oh shit, I don't want to go to that place. I don't want to go to that space where I feel out of control. And so that's like, whew, right? You just coming right back in to your body and to the breath and to really focusing deeply on just sitting and being present and asking yourself the question, am I safe? Am I safe? And acknowledging everything in your environment that is actually telling you, I am safe. There's a roof over my head. There's walls. And you can be sitting somewhere that doesn't have a roof and doesn't have walls and still be safe. I'm just giving an example. I have food in the refrigerator. I have water. I have all of the basic needs. So you're starting to kind of talk yourself into the reality of which you are in, which is I'm right here, right now, and I'm safe. And when you start to hear that narrative, it's almost like what comes to mind is like it's like a mother that's touching your shoulder, that's saying, honey, you're safe. You're here. You're really here. Be here. Because I think, especially now in what's happening in the world and the chaos and the energy, and as someone who's as sensitive as you are, those energies impact you. They come at you like crazy. And I think sometimes we don't recognize that as really, truly sensitive people on the journey, doing the deep inner work, that a lot of stuff impacts us. I mean, I'm not saying this for you specifically, but it can be the Wi-Fi in your home. It can be that you need to shut your Wi-Fi off at night so your nervous system, so the signals you're receiving can actually just quiet down, because we think we're sleeping and we're resting, and we are, but our psyche, our soul, we're traveling. Who knows? You could be astro traveling and doing a ton of work in the night, that when you wake up, you're like, like, where am I? Like, not that you're consciously thinking that, but your body is having that reaction. Like, what is going on? Am I safe? And so it's just acknowledging like your current environment of where you're at, breathing in, grounding, use your sit bones. I think we don't use our sit bones enough. Like, they're there for a reason. And it's like, focus on the feeling of being here, because otherwise the energies that are coming at us, I feel like, are just zapping us, almost like a taser gun is what's coming to me. And so moving away from that energy field and saying, no, I'm going to ground myself. And then like taking that feeling of being grounded and just envision like light coming up through your sit bones, and then emanate that out as a bubble. Like, start to visualize, I would say, a white, bright light bubble, and or like dark purple. And maybe actually what I'm being shown now is inside the bubble is this dark, dark purple, violent light. And on the outside of the bubble is this bright white. It's almost like what I'm being shown is like a sparkler, almost like on the outside of it. And just visualize this. Now, you might say that sounds wacky and weird, and why? And what I'm getting is that when you do this, you are actually taking your domain back. And you're saying, no, this is my energy. This is my space. I know who I am, and I'm a very powerful being, and I am anchored here. Don't fuck with me. And you're protecting yourself in this bubble. And it's something we really all need to do to some degree every day, because there is so much happening that we don't see. And again, I just feel like your level of sensitivity is you're getting tasered almost, like, and it's I know that sounds really kind of violent, but that's just what I'm being shown. and and then it's like, no, put up this protection. But I'm also being shown that one of your coping mechanism is to put up this protection, like it's a shield. And that protection, I'm not going to say it's bad, because it's not, but it's not allowing you to be in your heart and open your heart. And it's a normal way to try to protect ourselves when we're being bombarded by other energies, by other things in our environment, by other people in our lives. If you have other people in your home, and depending upon their level of spirituality or their level of receptivity, because I get the feeling they may not be where you are, whether it's spouses or children or whatever, if they are of higher vibration, I would ask them, hey, would you also be willing to wake up with me in the morning and just put your protective bubble out there, but at the same time, like, hold a space for me to keep my heart open? Because we need humans in our life. We need, whether it's a friend or a lover or a spouse, like, we need humans. And I think as we expand and evolve, we get our swords out and we're like, I can do this, I can do the good fight, I can find my way. And there's times when we do have to kind of be in that energy, that there's a healthy component to some of that. But we get way off center and we get really into this, like, I'm going to do it myself. My guards are up. I know how to do this. And now I'm just suggesting that you get the bubbles up that help from all the other energies, and that you take that power and then put it through your heart, like that it actually is coming out your heart. And I think that's also, it feels like all of the anxiety that's in your body can release, and you can let go of it through your heart. And I feel like you're trying to do it through your mind, and that's what's causing the fight or flight, because it's the thought that's causing the amygdala to trigger, and for all the hormones to be like da 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 da. And they escalate so quickly. And because you've had that escalation, anyone with anxiety knows that that escalation can happen so fast. And it's the thing that you fear, and fearing it brings it even stronger. So it's acknowledging it, which I think it's just brilliant that you're so in tune and so in touch and willing to ask the question, because a lot of people that suffer from anxiety don't even want to say that they have anxious moments. Who does? It's no fun. And it's not a weakness. It's actually something that is cultivating within you a strength for you to know the difference of what it's like to be in fight or flight or in bliss and flow, and knowing that there's all these energies and all these things that are having an impact on you, and acknowledging them and sorting through them. Yeah, really sitting with it. And I think when you start to do the bubble and you start to take back your field, that you will start to experience that peace a lot faster. And I don't mean that fast has to be the word, but that you don't see the escalation of the other hormones and emotions that come. Is that helpful, or is there something more on that I might be able to provide?
No, it's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very helpful. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other live viewers that are with us? Okay. I think there was one other one here that I didn't get to, and I know we're just down to the wire, but okay. I'll save it for next week. I so appreciate you being here with me every week, whether you're here live with me or you're on replay. You can always ask questions in the comments. You can go to bethbell.me/question. And I would highly recommend that you head over to bethbell.me and do the State of the Heart assessment. It's a free assessment. You'll find out if your heart is blocked, broken, healing, or whole, and you'll get a few tips and tools to help you perhaps unlock your heart. And if you'd like to go deeper on any issue that you have, you can always schedule a one-on-one session with me. There's also tons of resources on bethbell.me. There's the Awakening and Healing Handbook. I talk a lot about the modalities. I go into deep dive into modalities that can help you heal, a lot of which I talked about in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics. There's also the Psychedelics Resource Guide. That's a great way to just dive in and get some juicy tidbits if you're considering doing a ceremony, or you're just curious, or you know someone else that might be wanting to do a ceremony. It's a great resource guide for you. And then there's also the Herpes Handbook. So whether it's the virus of the mind or the actual herpes virus itself, there's lots of great information in the Herpes Handbook. So I hope you'll join me next week. I love these sessions with you. And until next week, wishing you only bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.